today. It's not just a cool trick to show that he could do it. He actually had a purpose, and he was on a mission from the start. So as we start this Passion Week and we begin to look into Jesus' final week, that purpose becomes crystal clear. The four Gospels show us how important that Passion Week is too. The account of Palm Sunday, the account that we're looking at today is in all four Gospels. And as I was looking this week and I was researching about the Gospels, you know, we just preached through them this year. And I've been preaching the Gospel for a long time. But I don't think I ever really paid attention to just how much of the Gospel is in this last week. But I just, for you guys, I did this. The four Gospels show us this. 40% of the entire book of Matthew is about the last week of Jesus' life. 60% of the book of Mark is about the last week of Jesus' life. 1/3 of the entire book of Luke is about this last week of Jesus' life. And 50% of the book that we're going to primarily be quoting out of today is all about this last week. Jesus' ministry on this earth takes up 85 out of 89 chapters in the gospel. What does that tell you? That tells you that he was on a mission. That tells you that he was here on purpose and he had a purpose and that he fulfilled that purpose. And as we look at it today, it's known as the triumphal entry. As we look at this text and we look at this story, I couldn't help but to think about triumphal as being a little bit of a funny term for it, that it was something that he didn't ask for. That was not the mission. He wasn't triumphal when he rode into Jerusalem, and in the way that they hoped that he would be, he was never triumphal. But as we look at this and we know that Jesus was on a mission, many times that makes me think, whenever somebody says somebody is on a mission, I think about the superheroes that I grew up. I think about Superman. I think about a lot of those things that we celebrate, all the movies that have been made about those people, about those people who are on a mission. And when I thought about that, you could almost hear the cheesy music, you know, dun 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 dun. The Mission Impossible. I was thinking, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Superman. You know, somebody who's on a mission, the superheroes, the way that we have promoted them, the way that we have looked at how important that they are. But Jesus was different. Jesus wasn't here to save the world. Jesus was here to save our souls from this world. And as we look at our text today, to call it the triumphal entry into Jerusalem, it was only triumphal because that's what the people made it. What made it triumphal was just because the people hung that name on him. Have you guys ever, or maybe you've got one, you know, my name's Kermit, so people call me Kermit the Frog all the time. I don't know if I would call it a nickname, but it's something that I don't really ask for. It just kind of comes, you know, and almost every week of my life, people say, anybody ever called you Kermit the Frog? Only a gazillion times. You know, so whenever you get something hung on you, whenever you get something attached to you that you don't really ask for, sometimes there's just really nothing you can do about it. Sometimes it just sticks. You know, I had an aunt whose name was Patsy, and when I was little, when I tried to say her name, it came out Sassy. And I called her Sassy all of my life. Well, it stuck, and everybody else started calling her Sassy too. So whenever we look at this and we see that it's called the triumphal entry, I thought about Jesus coming in, and I thought about his real heart. I thought about the real reason that he was here, and I thought about how it's almost kind of funny. It's very ironic that we call it a triumphal entry, because they wanted Jesus to be a certain way, and they wanted him to do certain things for them. And on top of that list was to become their king and to regain their independence from Rome. We call it Palm Sunday because we put out the palms. We have these little branches, these trees, which I finally convinced them to get them off the stage so they wouldn't be a tripping hazard for me. And now that I got glasses, it's even better. I'm kind of scared to come off of here. But those palms are there. Those palms represent a whole lot. We put out the palms because in biblical times, the palm branches were used as tokens of joy and triumph. The palm branches represented something. They were used whenever there was a time to have a celebration, whenever they were wanting to be festive, whenever they had something to feel good about. And you can read about that in Leviticus and Nehemiah. The palms were also used whenever kings and conquerors were welcome. They would lay down palm branches and they would wave those palm branches. And in biblical times too, if you read about the Greeks and you read about those games that they have, which we kind of know as the Olympic Games, that's what they've kind of transformed into. Those winners would go home and their trophy would kind of be a palm branch, so they would know that they had won their game when they came home waving that palm. So it was a trophy, it was a celebration. Jesus was not looking at this entry into Jerusalem the same way they were, obviously. They had these palm branches out because they had declared him their king. They had declared him the things that he was going to do. They had hung a name on him and they had hung duties upon him. And what else would you expect them to do? They were a religious people who did religious things, who had religious holidays. So religiously, they had the Son of God in front of them. Religiously, he had been about, you can read the previous chapters, he had been about healing people, giving blind people their sight back. In just the chapter before, he had raised one from the dead. Every way that he could, he was proclaiming through his actions without finally declaring his kingship. Every way that he could, he was showing people, and he comes riding in on a donkey, and they still can't see. They still don't understand what it's all about. Now there's a half-truth here. Jesus Christ is certainly the King of Kings, right, guys? I mean, that's why you're here to worship today, right? You're here to worship one named Jesus because he is the King of Kings. He is the Lord of Lords. There's no doubt about that. He's just not the king that they wanted. There's no doubt that he is the King of Kings. They knew that they were in need. And whenever I thought about this week, I thought, man, how many of us don't really know that we're in need? That's really not the problem. It doesn't take very long to sit with somebody and say, you know you got needs, right? You know you need help, right? Doesn't take very long for people to say, yeah, I know that I need help. I definitely don't have life figured out. There's no problem in showing people that they have need. And they knew that they had need too. They knew that they were in need. And they did something that we end up doing too, because we know that we're in need. We'll go ahead and diagnose ourselves too. Yeah, I got needs, and right here are the needs that I have. And here's how I'm going to get those needs. I'm going to go ahead and diagnose myself and come up with a cure for what ails me too. I can do all of those things. So they deemed Jesus what they needed. Now, that's exciting whenever you think about it. Again, halfway, that's exciting because whenever we name Jesus as our cure, they did that too. But the problem is whenever Jesus prescribes the medicine that we need, all of a sudden it's not that exciting. They had their palm branches out. They were waving them. They were hanging a name on him. And listen to what they were saying. Hosanna. Save us now. Man, not only do these people know who Jesus is, not only are they interested in Jesus, not only have they shown up and they're treating him like a king, they're saying the magic words. They're saying, save us. Save us. What could be wrong with this picture? I mean, it's always exciting whenever Jesus saves. He saves to the uttermost. He is the only name given whereby we can be saved, right? So what's wrong with this picture? There's only one problem. They didn't want saved from their sins. They wanted saved from the Romans. And so many times I think people run to God and they don't understand what it is that God saves them from. I think people run to God and they think that God is going to save them from their problems. They think that God is going to save them from their struggles. They think that God is going to save them from the things that they don't know, the things they're confused about. They think that God is going to save them from all of those things. The thing about it is that they wanted an earthly king, just like they had always wanted. You can go back into the Old Testament and you can see that they're who requested Saul too. They've always wanted an earthly king. And sometimes whenever we look around and we ask for help, we expect earthly help. The God that we serve, though, does better than earthly help. Because earthly help at best is temporary. The help that God gives is all and forever, for all of eternity. That's what he came to do. Whenever we study this text and we start to see, you know what? They did know that what they were doing was not working. You know, again, it doesn't take a very long stretch. It doesn't take a very long conversation for you to say, how's your life turning out with you living it the way you want to? How's things going with you trying to figure out all the questions to things? How's things going with you trying to make things happen? How's all that going without a little bit of help? Well, here's the problem. These people showed up by the thousands. They did it every year because they were a religious people who did religious things. So they were showing up to Passover just like they always did, but this year was different. Let's look at our text, John chapter 12. If you got a Bible, if you don't, just listen. John 12:12. On the next day, much people that were come to the feast when they heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. A religious people doing religious things just like they always had. But this year, many more people come out. So this is more than just a regular Passover crowd. These people who were religious and they were doing religious things, they were looking around and they were saying, you know what? Every year we do the same thing. Every year we do the same thing. We go to the same place. We got 3 feasts that we got to keep. We go to Jerusalem 3 times. Every year, religiously, we do the same thing. And this thing that we have, this religion that we have, there's really no power in it. I mean, it's moral, and we know that we all do the same thing. And every year, we got Passover celebrating when we escaped out of slavery from Egypt a long time ago. Religiously, we keep this. We've got a religion. In Jerusalem at this time, the population was somewhere between 50 and 100,000, depending on what you read. But during Passover week, that population would swell 10 times its normal. 10 times. 50,000 times 10. Except not only is it a 500,000 crowd, if you're being conservative, it's all the extra people too, because they heard something about this Passover in particular. What was that? It was noised about that Jesus was going to be in the house. It was noised about that Jesus was coming to town on this Passover. And they had heard about how that he healed the lame, and he had healed the sick, and he had healed the blind. And the big story, just a chapter before this, the big story that everybody was hanging on, that there was a great buzz going everywhere about, he raised Lazarus from the dead, brother. Yeah. He raised one from the dead. And the Pharisees were looking on, and they said, this man he's doing all kinds of things. He's doing he can work all kinds of miracles. There are people who are following him. Matter of fact, if you look at verse 19 in chapter 12 there in John 12:19, it says, the whole world has went after him. My goodness, our religion that we're trying to keep and we're trying to make people be committed to, and we're trying to make people dance the dance we want them to dance and do the things we want them to do and don't do the things we tell them not to do. All of this religion and all these things that we got, it's all up for grabs, and it's all because of this one man, Jesus. So the Bible teaches us in this text, our text for today is John 12:12 through 19. I don't know if I'll ever read them all together, so go read this text. But what you'll see inside that text is this. Inside of that crowd of people were the normal Passover goers who were there religiously. But it also names another group of people. It says that there were eyewitnesses. There were eyewitnesses to the power of Jesus. Eyewitnesses to when he raised Lazarus from the grave. That's one group of people who showed up for this Passover. We can't get enough of this guy. He's going to be at Passover. We're normally there anyway. There's one thing for sure, we're not missing this one. Matter of fact, you ought to go with me. You didn't see it, but let me tell you what I saw. You didn't see what I saw, but you ought to come see this guy. He's really something special. This religion that we've had for all this time, it seems like something's missing. And I've heard a little bit about what he's been saying, and he's talking a little bit different. He's saying a little bit different. It's not just all about Moses anymore. He's talking about all of the law and all that stuff. He's talking about how he fulfilled all of that. Let's go to Passover. 500,000, 1 million people, maybe over 1 million people as he comes riding in on a donkey. Just like Zechariah 9:9 said that he would. He was going to come in lowly riding on a donkey. Here he comes into town. The Bible says this, that they took branches of palm trees and went forth to meet him, and they cried, Hosanna! Blessed is the King of Israel that comes in the name of the Lord. And Jesus, when he had found a young ass, sat thereon, as it is written, Fear not, daughter of Sion. Behold, thy king cometh, sitting on an ass's colt. That's that reference to that prophecy that was given. You see, there's people who understand that I can't deny that there's a Jesus. It's 2025 in the year of the Lord. Obviously, he's impacted this earth. Obviously, He's impacted. Even if you don't believe, I could give you quote after quote of people who didn't believe in Jesus, but yet said it's obvious the way that He has impacted the world. I choose not to be a spiritual person, but I can't deny the person of Jesus. Can't deny that He was real. Can't deny that it's not just a story. I can't deny that. Just a few chapters over, you'll find that there's all kinds of opinions about Jesus. I mean, it's good. Let me tell you, the Bible teaches us that even Satan himself believes. So it's better to believe than not to believe, but believing isn't enough. And once you believe, then you can sort of form an opinion. Well, I believe that there is a Jesus, but here's what I got to say about it. I'm having a hard time believing that he did all the things it said that he did. But, I see his teachings. I can read those. I'll allow he was a good teacher. Fine, Jesus was a good teacher. He healed a blind man a couple chapters over, and when they asked him, he said, he must be a prophet. Remember when he asked his disciples, who do people say that I am? There's only one right answer. Thou art the Christ. That's who He is. That's who He will always be. And as He came riding in on a donkey, even though they hung King of Israel, even though they hung this name of Him where He was going to regain their independence, even though they wanted Him to be what they wanted Him to be, He never changes. This Palm Sunday, this Passion Week, as we step into it, maybe you've been waiting for God to be the God that you want Him to be. Maybe you have formed your version of the truth. Here's the fact of it. There's only one truth, and He's it. And the things that He has come to do are far better than you even know to ask. They thought that they needed deliverance from Rome. They thought that they needed an improved life. They thought that they needed Him to fix some things so that they could be the people that they wanted to be. And they were amazed at all of the things that He did. But whenever He came in and they could hear the way that He was talking, and they were all excited. And it was a triumphal entry. And they were proclaiming Him to be somebody that He wasn't. As Jesus looked throughout the crowd, you can read the accounts. He wasn't celebrating with them. Even though they didn't understand, even though they didn't get it, they still wanted to check Him out. They still wanted to see. Literally, all eyes were on Him, and they wanted Him to feel welcome. In all three accounts, it says that they spread their cloaks on the road. In all three of the other accounts other than John, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it says that they spread their cloaks on the road. Another sign of royalty, another sign that they would do whenever they were in trouble. They would welcome the gods, and they would lay their cloaks out, and they would say, step on our stuff. We don't want you to get you, just here. We want you to feel welcome. We're laying out the red carpet. We want you here. So in all three of the other accounts, whenever I read that this week, the word that's used for spread in all three of those accounts is the same word that's used whenever they would spread a blanket out. I don't mean to get anybody in trouble, but how many of y'all make your beds up? When you spread, nobody pay attention to who didn't raise their hand. Whenever you spread your cover, whenever you pull it tight, whenever you do whatever you do, however you tuck it, this is the same word that is used. They spread their cloaks out. They didn't throw their jacket down. They took time. And they spread it out, and they knelt down, and they said, here. And whenever I read that this week, it really started clicking inside my mind. And I thought, man, there's something to that. There's something to that. We're looking at over 1 million people who religiously went to the same place every year, still doing it. We're looking at an account where religiously there were a people who had a religion, and they did religious things. Each year we got to guard against this just being another opportunity, another Easter, another Passion Week, another holiday. You can't let it just be that. Same story, yes, indeed, but the Word of God is alive and sharper than any two-edged sword. And even though I'm quoting Scripture that you've probably heard quoted a bunch of times, He will give you fresh revelation if you'll press in. As I pressed in this week and as I prayed, God, show me what it is you'd have for us right now. Show me the fresh manna. Show me a fresh word. I saw that whenever I looked at this text and I know where we're headed. You guys know where we're headed, right? He rode into Jerusalem and they were shouting, save us, but just 4 or 5 days later they were shouting, crucify him. The same people. You know where we're headed. You know that they put him in a borrowed tomb. And you know on the third and appointed morning, which will be next Sunday, man, that's really going to be a party because that's when he resurrected from the grave, victorious over all that we fear. You know every event of this week. So as I was looking this week, I saw something. I saw a parallel. Each and every account, whether we're talking about what happened on Palm Sunday or we're talking about Good Friday or we're talking about Easter, there's something that is mentioned, the ground. They threw their cloaks on the ground. On the earth. Jesus is on the earth. I told you that has some significance. Jesus is actually here. He did exactly what was prophesied about in the way that he was supposed to do it on the time, in the time that he was supposed to do it. So whenever I read that those cloaks were thrown down for him and the donkey to walk upon, something jumped at me. He was on the earth. And as I thought more and more about that, I realized we can't just make this a big celebration and miss the best part. Him being on the earth, man, that's pretty special. He came to earth, experienced life from a baby to a child to an adolescent, grew into a man on purpose, for a purpose. He came to reveal the character of God the Father. A religious people doing religious things made God seem like he was far off, like he was an all-powerful being, but he was hard, he was tough, and he was holy, and that's all that mattered. And he was also unapproachable. So when Jesus came in the flesh, it revealed the real and true character of God. It revealed who God really is. It revealed his real character. The real and true character of God is that God has great love and compassion toward us. He understands us. He has felt everything that we feel in this life. This is a special time. This is a special day. We teach that to really serve God, you got to have boots on the ground. I'm looking around and the sign's gone. We had a couple drop off. That's one that didn't make it. So we got a couple signs missing, but you know that we teach that you got to have eyes on him. You got to have feet to go, boots on the ground. You know that, right? We teach that. You got to have hands to serve. You got to have hands to go, boots on the ground. Well, the Word becoming flesh is boots on the ground, brother. The Word becoming flesh, he doesn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. This God that we serve, all we are doing is following in Jesus' spiritual footsteps as we follow him. Aren't you glad that we don't just have a God who talks the talk? Aren't you glad that we got a God who walked the walk all the way into Jerusalem and he finished what he came to do? He finishes what he starts. Give him praise. He finishes what he starts. And that's not just on a worldly level. This is on an individual level too. Sometimes we do become stagnant. Sometimes we do become religious. Sometimes we do become cold. Sometimes we kind of fall into the rut and the routine of things. But I want you to know something. If God has started a work in you, he is faithful to finish it. If today is your day where that you say, you know what, I've been forgetting that fact. This life's not about me and my choices. I can't make God who I want him to be. He spoke my name. He called my name however many years ago it was. I'm going to have to let him finish what he started. Do you know how much he loves you? He experienced temptation. Why did he do that? Did he have to do that? Did that make him God? No, he was God a long time before he ever came down here and got tempted by the enemy himself. Why did he do that? For you. He did that for you. He tasted of that temptation. The threats and the lies from the enemy. Man, the rejection. You guys know this whole story. We're blessed to have the whole counsel of God. You know that the crowds were huge until he got to the cross, and then there was nobody to be found. Everyone rejected what the plan was. the loneliness of this world. Jesus felt pain. He felt everything that we feel. Every single emotion, every single experience, no matter where you are in this life, no matter what you're going through, if you'll be honest with yourself, I'm telling you right now, the only person who can really understand you is in this man, Jesus. You want to know what a gift we had? God loved us so much that the Word became flesh. Not to make Him God, but to reveal to us the character of God. To reveal to us, I know you, I see you, I understand you, I intend to help you, I have plans for you. They are to prosper you and to not harm you. I have a place for you to go for all of eternity. Man, these are the truths. These are the promises of God. If the prophecy that Him come riding in on a donkey came true, don't you doubt for 1 second that those plans that He has for you won't come true as well. I'm going to ask you to stand today. I'm going to ask our praise team to come back. What am I trying to tell you today? I'm trying to tell you that Jesus riding in on a donkey is not just a cute story. I'm trying to tell you that Jesus walking all the way to Jerusalem is not just all there is to it. I'm trying to tell you that there's something about this. We have a God who cares for us. I mean, my brothers and sisters in this place, God has shown you that He cares for you. We have a God who is interested in what we do from day to day. We have a God who understands us. And we have a God who has a desire. You say, what is that desire, preacher? We have a God who has this huge desire from us. Something from us. God wants something. Whenever we say that, everybody's like, anything you want. Remember Peter? Nobody will ever hurt you, Jesus. Anything you say, I'll go with you all the way. You remember that? That's the same thing we do. I got needs, and I know God's the answer, and He wants something from me. God, you want me to dance? I'll dance. That's what David said. God, what's your desire? I'm going to go work for God. I'm going to go do things for God. I'm going to keep myself so busy. I'm going to fill my schedule up with things I'm doing for God, because you sounded more like these Jews than you realize. That's not what He desires. God's desire from us is not a good performance. He desires a relationship with us. He desires our trust. Hearts to be true. He desires for us to live in a lost and dying world and proclaim His word to be true. These are the desires that He has for us. A relationship with us. You know, a relationship is something that involves give and take. A relationship is something that involves communication on both sides. Sometimes I think we have more of an opinion of that God of the Old Testament. We forget that Jesus came to reveal to us God's not really like that. That's what the prophets made Him out to be. That's what Moses made Him out to be. That's what the stories of the Old Testament made Him out to be. And He got a name hung on Him. This world's got a way of hanging names on people, doesn't it? What's this world hung on you? Unfairly. It's not really who you are. There's not a person in here who hasn't done some bad things, right? But the things we do, because of Jesus, because the Word became flesh, the things that we do have nothing to do with who we are. Our relationship with Jesus determines who we are. Our relationship with Jesus determines whether we are someone who is set and bound and their face set on glory, or a lost and confused individual who's trying to still make sense out of life, who has good days, bad days, ups, downs, all arounds, and somehow or another blames God on the bad days. Forgets to thank Him on the good days. We're getting ready to give altar call, guys. He desires a relationship with us. I'll ask you to bow your heads. Nobody looking around this morning. As we step into this week, this is the first day of Passion. Man, was He passionate. He did exactly what He said He was going to do. He walked all the way. His face was set on Jerusalem, and here He comes riding in. How many of you guys could be honest right now and you could say, you know what? I don't have much of a relationship with God. Because honestly, whenever I have a need from God, I figure that He's got bigger things to deal with than my stuff. I'll tell you how that snuck into your mind, how that came into your ears. The enemy slid that in, and it's a lie. How many of you got some things you really should talk to God about, but for whatever reason you haven't been bringing them? You slip your hand up right now? Bless y'all. How many of y'all got some stuff that you could really use some help with, but for whatever reason, bless y'all. He desires a relationship with us. It is beyond questionable whether or not there is or was a Jesus. Even unbelievers have proclaimed the impact that He's had on this world. And this year we're living in the year of the Lord. All of those are proofs. All of those are facts. So to believe that there's a Jesus, that's just simply not enough. Look up here at me. I'm not going to try to drag a hand all across the room. I think y'all hear what I'm saying. Jesus moved first, not to make us dance, not to make us work, not to make us perform. Jesus moved first. His hand is outstretched. And all you got to do is put your hand in His. If you are struggling, He is the man. Is that right? The testimony in the house, I've struggled and God was the only one. I've been struggling. I've been through some stuff and nobody could help me. If you are blessed right now and you're looking and you're into Passion Week and you say, man, my life is on a high right now. Honestly, if I'm being honest with the preacher, it's better than it's been in a long time. Well, then you're in a different position. You still ought to put your hand in His, but say, hey, man, thank you. Thank you. How many of you right now, you just put your hand up and you say, thank you for what you're doing in my life right now? Whether you are in need or whether you're in a place where you say, you know what, I don't really have a whole lot of needs. It all boils down to the same thing. He desires a relationship with us. Here's the relationship. He's God. He's the Father. We are the child. We are the servant. As a child and as a servant, we look to our Father in times of need. As a child and as a servant, we look to our Father who we know has supplied everything that we have. So this altar call today, as we look at ourselves concerning our lives, we have to decide, how can my walk be described? Am I watching as Jesus touches other people? Am I watching and I watched as He raised one from the dead? And I watched as this happened? Man, I'm an eyewitness to all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of folks who just watch it happen. Are we just a little bit better off? And we've went beyond just being an eyewitness and we actually like it? So we keep coming back to watch it? Man. There were people there who said, I didn't actually see it, but somebody told me about it, so I'm kind of interested. I'm kind of a fan of what I'm hearing about this guy. Jesus didn't die in your place so that you'd be a fan of His. Jesus died in your place because He intends to give you life and life more abundantly. And He rose on the third and appointed morning because you too may rise. It's not about being a fan of His works. It's about allowing what He has done to be the steps that you follow. While they celebrated, Jesus wept because He knew their hearts, He knew their walks, and He knew their opinion that they had of Him. as we come to a close today and we have one last song, He knows all those things about us too. He knows your heart. He knows your walk. He knows what your opinion is of Him. If you need to come, today's the day. Now's the time. You want to experience real passion? You got to quit watching it. You got to get in it. You got to quit standing afar off, because He's not a far off God. He's a God who's right here, right now. If He's speaking to your heart as they begin to sing this last song, why don't you come?
You give life.
Once again, we want to thank you for joining us online at our Sunday service here at the Crossing Church. Right now in our sanctuary, we're taking up the weekly offering. This tithe to your church allows us to continue to grow our ministry and provide you with resources for your spiritual journey. You can give to the Crossing Church in 4 different ways: by mail, online website, our app, or even by texting an amount to 84321. We're honored that you have chosen to spend your Sunday morning with us and want you to know that there are pastors online in the comment section down below that are available to talk with you if you have a need or if you have anything on your heart that you would like to share with a member of the Crossing Church team. You can do that now, or you can also reach out to us online. You can use the online Connect card at our website or through the app. You can also contact us via phone at 865-932-3993. We hope that today's message blessed you, and may the Crossing continue to be a resource for you along your spiritual journey. The Crossing Church. Feet to go, hands that serve, eyes on Him.